Hello again and welcome to Metal Math. Put the guitar down, I'll be right with you. Okay, today we are going to continue with relating decimals, fractions. We're going to do equivalent fractions and decimals. Okay, now we've done equivalent fractions before, and just a review for you, to show you how to do equivalent fractions again. If you have the fraction 1/2, and you want to create an equivalent fraction to that, just multiply it by any fraction that has the same numerator or denominator. So if you have 1/2 and you want to find an equivalent fraction, multiply 1/2 times 2/2. That would give you 2/4, and therefore 2/4 is an equivalent fraction to 1/2. If you wanted to use 10/10, it would be 1 times 10, which is 10, 2 times 10, which is 20, and 10/20 is also an equivalent fraction for 1/2. Okay, that's just a little review. We're going to go into our new lesson today and start with our Unlock the Problem. It's chapter 9, lesson 3, and Unlock the Problem reads, Daniel spent a day hiking through a wildlife preserve. During the first hour of the hike, he drank 6/10 of a liter of water. How many hundredths of a liter did he drink? Okay, so we're given the fraction 6/10. We want to turn that into an equivalent fraction, but in hundredths. So that means our denominator would be 100. Okay? Now, first of all, if you underline what you need to do, we just went over that. How many hundredths of a liter did he drink? And how can you represent hundredths? You can either represent hundredths as a fraction or a decimal. And remember, whenever we're talking about fractions and decimals, we're talking about a part of a whole, not a whole item. Okay? So one way we're going to do this is we're going to write 6/10 as an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 100. So it would be 6/10 equals blank over 100. We want to figure out what it would equal if it was in hundredths. Okay, so the way we can do that is the way I just showed you as part of our review. Take 6/10 and multiply 6 times 10/10. Because if we want 100 as our denominator, we have to do 10 from 6/10 and multiply that by 10 to get to 100. And whatever we do to our denominator, we have to do to our numerator as well. So we would do 6/10 equals 6/10 times 10/10. And if you do the math, 6 times 10, everybody knows 60. 10 times 10, 100. So our answer would be 60/100. I'm going to show you that on the board now, so you get an idea of what it looks like. And if you look, here's our charts. First we have our tenths, and we have 6/10. All right, we have our chart. We have 10 total pieces. 6 are shaded red. That represents 6/10. Then we go over to our other chart, which has now been broken into hundredths. And once we do our multiplication, we get 60/100. So once again, we would have to shade in 60 individual blocks, or what look just like the 6 rows for tenths, and we would get out 60/100. Okay, and that's what it would look like. And then if we want to write it on a place value chart, down here, if we have 6/10, it would be 0 ones, then our decimal point, and then just 6/10. There wouldn't be anything in the hundredths place yet. If we were showing 6/10, the hundredths place would be blank. But then once we multiply, and we find out that 60 is the equivalent in hundredths, we can fill in a 0, and we look at our place value chart, and it says right there, 0 ones, decimal point, 6/10, 0 hundredths. And that's how you would write 60 hundredths as a decimal, which is the equivalent to 6/10. Okay? So, pretty basic math we're using here. You know how to make equivalent fractions. You should know your multiplication tables. Remember, whatever you do to your denominator, if you're multiplying it by 2, you multiply your numerator by 2. If you're multiplying it by 10, multiply the numerator by 10. Any number will work, and those will give you equivalent fractions. Okay, so I hope that cleared things up for you, made it a little bit easier. Tomorrow we're going to start a new lesson, and I'll have a video for you for that. Okay, and a new song too. All right, have a good day, everybody.